Have you ever wondered why British coronations are such grand affairs? Each is a spectacle of majesty and tradition, a testament to the enduring power and allure of the monarchy. Yet every coronation carries its own unique narrative, a tale woven into the rich tapestry of Britain's history. Take, for instance, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. It was a moment that broke new ground, brought to life in living rooms across the globe as the first televised coronation. This was a departure from tradition, a nod to the ever-evolving world of technology. Then there was King George VI, Elizabeth's father. His coronation was a radio event, the first of its kind, reaching an estimated 20 million listeners worldwide. This was a coronation that truly transcended borders, ensuring that the ceremony was accessible to more people than ever before. But let's travel further back in time, to the coronation of King George V. Though much of the footage from this 1911 event has sadly been lost, it was nonetheless a vibrant, colorful affair that reflected the optimism of a new century. And who could forget King Edward VII? His 1902 coronation saw the monarch embracing the modern age, becoming the first reigning monarch to arrive at his ceremony in an automobile. Even further back in 1838 we find Queen Victoria, the first royal ever to be photographed. Yet her reaction to this newfangled technology was far from enthusiastic. In fact, she famously closed her eyes and scratched out her face in the photograph, sparing the children in the frame. Then there's King William IV, who opted for a modest penny coronation in stark contrast to the extravagance of his predecessor, King George IV, whose coronation in 1821 cost a staggering £21 million. Each of these coronations, each of these stories, is a fascinating snapshot of a moment in time, a glimpse into the ever-evolving narrative of Britain's monarchy. So, are you ready? Let's delve into the rich history of British coronations. The modern coronation began with King Edward VII in 1902. His coronation marked a significant shift in the royal pageant, embracing the modern technology of the time. It was the first time a reigning monarch traveled by automobile to the ceremony. The king's procession in its gleaming motor vehicle was a sight to behold, symbolizing a new age of modernity. Next, we turn our attention to King George V, who was crowned in 1911. His coronation was a riot of color and pomp, a spectacle that enthralled the nation. However, much of the footage from this grand occasion has been lost, leaving us with only written accounts and a few photographs to imagine the grandeur of the day. Then came King George VI, whose coronation in 1937 was a groundbreaking event. The ceremony was broadcast live on the radio for the first time, reaching an estimated audience of 20 million worldwide. This significant step brought the coronation into the homes of millions, making it a shared experience on a scale never seen before. Finally, we arrive at the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. This was a historic moment as it was the first televised coronation. The Queen, young and resplendent, took her oath before the eyes of millions of viewers tuned in from their living rooms. This marked a new era of accessibility and global connection as people from all corners of the world could witness a British coronation in real time. These modern coronations were not just ceremonies to crown a new monarch, they were pivotal moments in history that showcased technological advancements of their times. From the use of the automobile in 1902, the radio broadcast in 1937, to the television broadcast in 1953, each coronation brought the ceremony closer to the people, making it a shared national and global experience. These modern coronations brought the ceremony into the homes of millions, marking significant milestones in the history of British coronations. The Victorian era saw Queen Victoria's coronation in 1838. A time of immense change, the Victorian era was marked by industrial revolution, societal transformation, and of course the coronation of a queen who would have the second longest reign in British history. Queen Victoria ascended to the throne when she was just 18 years old, and her coronation was a symbolic moment that signaled a new era. She was not just a queen, but also a trendsetter. In an age where photography was a new and exciting technology, Queen Victoria became the first royal to be photographed. This was a significant moment, as it allowed the public to see their queen in a way they never had before. It brought a sense of closeness, a connection between the monarchy and the people that hadn't existed before. But this new technology wasn't initially embraced by everyone, including the Queen herself. In the first photograph of her, Queen Victoria famously closed her eyes and scratched out her face. But despite her initial reaction, The photograph paved the way for future monarchs to be seen by their people in a whole new light. Before Queen Victoria, King William IV was crowned in a ceremony that was a stark contrast to the grandeur usually associated with coronations. His was often referred to as the penny coronation. This was a reflection of the king's desire to be more relatable to his subjects. Instead of a grand banquet, the menu included something as simple as turtle soup. It was a symbolic gesture, a nod to the common man. King William II's coronation was a celebration of the monarchy, yes, but it was also a celebration of the people. The Victorian era was significant in the history of British coronations. It demonstrated that coronations were not just about royal pomp and pageantry, but also about the people who the monarchs would rule over. It was a time when the monarchy began to be seen less as distant figures of authority, and more as leaders who were part of the fabric of society. The Victorian era brought coronations to the people. It was a time of change, a time of connection, and a time that forever altered the way the British monarchy was perceived. King George IV's coronation in 1821 was the most extravagant in British history. This event, steeped in opulence and grandeur, is a sparkling gem in the annals of royal history. It was an affair of such magnitude that it became a reference point for royal excess. King George IV, often known as the First Gentleman of England, was a man of taste. His coronation was a testament to his love for the finer things in life. From the awe-inspiring banquet to the grand procession, every detail was meticulously planned to ensure a spectacle like no other. The coronation ceremony itself was a grand display of pageantry, with a procession that included over 400 people. The king's royal robe, embroidered with over 13,000 diamonds, was a shining symbol of his extravagant lifestyle. The banquet hall was adorned with elaborate decorations, and the menu was a gastronomic delight, featuring a range of exotic dishes. The cost of this opulent event? A staggering £21 million, an astronomical sum for the time. In stark contrast to this lavish spectacle, King William IV, George's successor, opted for a much more modest affair for his coronation. Known as the penny coronation, it was a far cry from the grandeur of George's coronation. The banquet was replaced with a simple meal of turtle soup, and the guest list was significantly trimmed. This stark contrast between the two coronations is a fascinating insight into the differing personalities of the two monarchs. The extravagance of King George VI's coronation was unprecedented and has not been matched since. It was a celebration of royal excess, a spectacle that has cemented its place in history. The grandeur of the event was such that it challenged the very boundaries of opulence and set a standard of royal splendor that is yet to be surpassed. However, beyond the spectacle and the grandeur, these coronations, whether lavish or modest, are significant historical events, marking important transitions in British history. They are a testament to the enduring tradition and the rich cultural heritage of the British monarchy. King George IV's coronation remains a symbol of royal extravagance. It is an event that continues to captivate historians and royal enthusiasts alike, a dazzling display of royal power and prestige. King George III's coronation in 1761 marked his record-breaking 59-year reign. His reign, the third longest in British history, was an era of significant change and development, both in Britain and around the world. Born in London during the reign of his grandfather, George II, our Georgie was the first of Hanoverian monarchs to be born and educated in England. He ascended the throne at a young age of 22, following his grandfather's sudden death. His coronation signaled a new era in British history. The ceremony was a grand spectacle, marked by pomp and pageantry. It was held in Westminster Abbey, a tradition that dates back to the coronation of William the Conqueror in 1066. During his reign, George III witnessed the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Industrial Revolution, events that shaped the world as we know it today. His rule was a time of great expansion for the British Empire, with territories stretching from Canada in the west to Australia in the east. However, George III's reign was not without controversy. His policies towards the American colonies led to the War of Independence and the loss of those territories. His later years were marked by bouts of mental illness, which led to the Regency era under the future King George IV. Despite the challenges and controversies, George III's reign is remembered for its longevity and the significant events it encompassed. His reign saw the transformation of Britain from a largely agrarian society to an industrial powerhouse, setting the stage for the Victorian era that followed. In many ways, the reign of George III set the tone for the modern British monarchy. It was a reign marked by change, expansion, and the beginning of Britain's transition into a constitutional monarchy. King George III's coronation marked the beginning of a historic era in British monarchy. His record-breaking reign serves as a fascinating chapter in the annals of British history, a period that saw the rise of modern Britain and the transformation of its monarchy.